I love history. I love architecture that has a sense of history. I think that it's a point that they can kind of reflect back, and it's a sense that is in a house that's kind of hard to reproduce. So I think adding and continuing the architecture and continuing the longevity of this house is something that's really important. In building homes for people, I am always interested in the location and the clients themselves. And those two things combined are really what create my inspiration. The clients are often really the muse of what it's about. I'm not designing homes for myself. And in this case, in this beautiful home that we're in, the home itself and the architecture of Philip Shutze was really the inspiration.
So I'm inspired by really beautiful things all over the world. Travel inspires me. I'm always looking at art, architecture, and gardens when I travel. So my inspiration comes from travel, but it's in seeing the beautiful things that have been created in other places. This lot was unique in that it is a very deep lot and it has very mature trees on it. Atlanta is known as the city in a forest, and this happened to be a site that was primarily a forest with a home sitting in the middle of it. And so we used classical ideas in the creation of the grounds here, axis and focal points, and really playing off of the architecture of the house to create the outdoor.
They were designing a house that was originally designed by Philip Shutze, and for me, although I always looked up to his work and looked back to his work for inspiration on other projects, but this one in particular, I felt like we needed to do a deep dive. So I actually went to the History Center here in Atlanta and looked up all of the original drawings by Philip Shutze, and it was a real treasure trove of ideas. And it was interesting that some of those ideas that were drawn and conceived by him originally were not things that were done to the house, and I don't know if that was because of budget or because the clients didn't like them or whatever the case may be, but it was really nice to go back and propose some of those ideas, such as the marble floor in the entry hall and the pattern of that marble floor. We implemented almost exactly what he had done almost, I guess, 70 years earlier, 80 years earlier.
It's a collaboration of everybody, They all came at one time, and the architect would say, I think of this design, and then the decorator would agree with it, or let's change this, and the architect would also help her once in a while with, we'll walk through the house and do color samples, and he would put in his 2 cents. It takes longer than building a new home because you're marrying it into an existing home. And so it's just tougher. You have to go to a mill shop to match them perfectly, and some of the other materials used, where a new home, you can get more stock stuff. I mean, you can still do some custom, but you're not marrying into the old, so nothing's there to tie into, so it's just easier to build, quicker, just to go up from the ground up than trying to marry it into an old home.
In the rear of the home, there was a swimming pool here. It was not original, but it was really close to the rear facade, and we changed the orientation of it.
The backyard was just a hill, and we had to put a pool in. So it was a very large retaining wall that we had to get engineered, due to their specifications, and we had to they had to drill pilings in the ground until it hit rock. There was a lot of granite down below we finally hit, and it was like putting stilts for the pool to sit on. And then we just filled it in with gravel.
The house really reminds me of many homes that I've seen in England. You know, it has a beautiful symmetrical facade to the front, beautiful doorway. We kind of played that up by adding a small terrace in front of the front door as a welcome.
I'm an architect, and specifically a residential architecture, because it's what I've loved to do since I was a small child. I love the idea of creating beauty and places for people to live their lives, transforming the formality into something that was very livable in today's life. For example, on the third floor of the house, which was an unfinished attic, became a wonderful play space for kids, including a stage and bunk beds and a place for arts and crafts, and real life things can still happen in a wonderful house like this. And I think those are the types of things that we listened to and we really paid attention to, that it can be dressy and formal in moments, but it also can be real life stuff that you're designing for. We wanted this house to have a little bit of mystery and intrigue, and I think some of that was already developed by Philip Shutze with some paneling and things that opened and were concealed, and we sort of took it a step further as we were developing spaces like the library with the speakeasy in the corner. It's very small and quaint, but as you touch that panel in the door and it pop opens with the bright color inside, it's a bit of surprise and novelty, which keeps you interested in the architecture and in the spaces that you're in. I think in designing houses in Atlanta, holding on to our southern roots and to our climate is important. Taking advantage of the beautiful landscape that we live in, and how the house and the dwelling really fits within that landscape. The majestic trees around it, the gardens, the connection of inside and outside, I think is very important.
Another challenge on this project was the yard goes down steep down into a ravine with a little creek down it, and then it goes back up the hill, and they wanted a pavilion back in the backyard there so that the kids could go back there and have a little recreation area back there. So we built a pavilion. In Gay, Georgia, there was also a company that does nothing but reclaimed wood. Then we closed it all in with iron steel windows units. So it's glass all the way around. And it's just a cool room to sit in out there.
I always love houses with a lot of natural light sweeping through the rooms and coming from multiple directions in any given room. And that was something that we did very specifically to this house. We opened up a lot more walls. We added windows. We did a lot of things, small, sometimes big at other times, but it created that connection from inside to outside, and it created a lot of extra natural light sweeping through the spaces. I think the main thing in terms of sustainability is just the quality of craftsmanship and the quality of materials. It's a house that's built to last, and as we were doing additions and modifications to the house, we wanted to keep that spirit. And you know, the slate roof that can last a lifetime, the brick, authentic masonry exterior of the house, the quality of the wood that was used. They were all conceived of as being materials that would have a lasting life.
We installed geothermal system on the house, which it's a plus. You don't have the outside air conditioning units anymore, they're gone. So that helps in the landscaping part of it.
I think it's always important to also create a home and a space that is as a place of respite. It's a place to come and rest and relax and to get away from the hustle and bustle of the world that we all live in today. And this home in particular, I think, really kind of gives you that as much as any house I think I've ever been in, because it is so private and tucked away. And when you get into the home itself and into the rooms, there is a certain amount of intimacy in them. They're not overly grand and voluminous spaces, but spaces that people feel good in these spaces. And I think this house attracted to our clients, and we didn't want to lose that sense of scale, that sense of intimacy that you do find throughout the house in different moments.